Hello everyone and welcome on down to the Final Whistles 2021 Singapore Premier League Review Show. I'm Jerome and I am so excited to bring you this episode here live at the Hive Studios. But firstly, on behalf of the Final Whistle, massive congratulations to Lion City Sailors for winning their first Singapore Premier League title. And with that win, the Sailors become the first local club to win it in 7 years after their 4-1 victory over Balestier Khalsa on the final day of the season. And with that, congratulations to the Sailors. It's been a fantastic season for local football despite all that's been going on around us, and we had to give it the mention it deserves. Now, we've assembled a panel right here to review the season, and it might not get feisty, but we'll definitely get a lot of very valuable insight. All right, let's kick things off by introducing our panel for today. First of all, we have journalist and 1/3 of the Final Whistle, introducing Deepan Rajaganesan. How are you doing, and how does it feel to be on the other side of the questions this time?
I think thankful to be on this side. I think not always easy to host, but thank you for having me. I think looking forward to reviewing the season. I think it's been a fantastic season, like you mentioned. So much of good things to talk about, and some bad things as well. And I'm sure we'll get into all of it during the show.
All right. So you've heard his voice on the TFW's weekly English Premier League show, and you've also seen him on YouTube as the host of Rated R&R. It is Ziaul Raushan. How are you doing, my friend?
Hey Jerome, thank you so much for the introduction. Great to be here and very excited to talk about the season. So looking forward to it.
All right. And of course, you've seen him play in the Asian Champions League. He's the face and voice of the 2021 SPL season. The other man behind Rated R&R, let's welcome Rish Roshan Rai. How you doing, man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. Great introduction, man. I love your voice, by the way.
Thank you.
Very excited to get things started with you guys. Looking forward
Awesome.
to exchanging a few opinions and maybe a few punches.
That's
I
the
told
thing.
you he's one guy who's looking forward to get it tasty.
With this show, we definitely don't pull any punches, that is for sure. But last, but certainly not least, he's been on the show quite a few times already. Definitely never tire from seeing his face. He's never shy to share his thoughts and insights. It is, of course, the football agent, Khairul Ashraf. Welcome onto the show as well.
Thank you. I think this is the best SPL season, S-League or SPL season in the last 10-15 years, personally, for me. And I'm happy to share. And since Raushan has drawn first blood, I hope I can draw second blood.
That is for sure. There's going to be a lot of blood going to be shed tonight. But, of course, we headed into the final day of the season with an immense chance for the SPL title to be drawn. So, basically, with Deepan, what do you feel about the last day of the season going into it?
I think it's quite interesting that Khairul mentions the fact that it's been one of the best in the last 10 years because my memory isn't great, but I had the same thinking as well. I thought that this was one of the best seasons that I can remember. Simply because I thought that the quality of football went up a notch compared to the last few seasons. I think that the title race, to have a genuine title race, is a big boost for any league, and I think we had that as well going to the final day. I remember at halftime with Tanjung Pagar having a good lead. Tanjung Pagar down to Albrechts, and Albrechts having a good lead. I actually thought that Albrechts could nick it on the final day of the season. So the excitement is not something you always get with the Singapore Premier League or the S League, and we had that in from round one all the way to the end. So fantastic to see that, and I hope this continues for next season. But given the fact that 2021 with the pandemic, we're still reeling from it, lots of good moments from the season to remember and really cherish.
Yep, that is for sure. We are going to be doing this in a way where we're actually going to be looking through the teams from bottom of the table to top of the table. So we're going to, of course, start with the Young Lions. I mean, we start off with the bottom, but I don't think it has been rock bottom for them. I thought this season they have been really impressive, and boy, have we been entertained. Roshan, I want to start with you on this one. What do you make of their season overall?
I think it's been a decent season. And speaking from a professional perspective, it's hard to say it's been fantastic when you're bottom of the table. You know, it's difficult to say that. I mean, end of the day, it is a professional league, right? Unless we're going back to the talk about this being a developmental league, then okay, maybe it's a different sort of scenario. And understand the situations around the Young Lions players. Lots of national servicemen, lots of students. You know, we spoke to Philip recently as well, and you guys have spoken to him as well, and we've heard from him. And you know, these guys are not professional players in that sense. So I understand all those difficulties. And considering those reasons that they've got, I think it's been all right. The fact that they've pushed you know, the likes of Balestier, who are a professional club, Geylang, some of the other sides in the bottom four as well, and given a good fist of it against some of the stronger teams. You know, I think it bodes well for them moving along in the longer term. I'm quite excited at the talent, the potential that we have coming through in this league in terms of the younger players in that squad. There were some really good performances. Ilhan, I thought, played well up front for them. Khairi Nadim was quite exciting. I think Mala in central defence was solid for them, and then you had the Stewart brothers who did a good job, especially down the right-hand side. I think it's Raihan Stewart was playing right back, very powerful in those positions. Joel as well, fantastic in midfield, good technical quality. So these players sort of coming through makes me very hopeful for the future of Singapore football. Oh, one more, Hami Shaheen.
Oh, yes.
Hami Shaheen.
I was bouncing.
Hami Shaheen as well. I mean, just unfortunate he had that ankle injury.
So, Raushan, for you, we've already gone through all the players that stood out for you, but will we be able to see these players, most of these players, actually be back in the squad for next year? I mean, we heard about all their, national service requirements and stuff like that. Do you think we will still see a bulk of the squad back next season?
I think that's the trouble with the whole Young Lions project, right? You don't know a lot of SPL clubs are like that as well. But with Young Lions especially, you don't know when they finish national service, they're going to go back to their parent club, so to speak. But I think with the Young Lions project, they were building up to this year-end tournament, the under 22, 23 qualifiers that are coming up. So that's the challenge for them when they started this season, and I think they put themselves in a good position to take on that challenge and very much looking forward to that tournament. So to answer your question, I don't know about next season. It'll probably be the Young Lions way to start from scratch again, but they got a good foundation, and if they keep Pippo at the helm, I think he might be the one who brings on new boys but yet gives them the chance to play the same way and gives them the confidence to play the same way.
Just want to touch on something that Roshan mentioned. He talked about the table, and I do agree. Fundamentally, when you're in a professional league, you've got to look at the league table, and it will be indication of the performances. But I think it's not a fair reflection of Young Lions in the sense where he mentioned the individual players. I think this is the first time in a long time where you've got a Young Lions team, but you can name up to 7-8 players who had good seasons, which is not normally what you get in a Young Lions campaign. Even those boys who didn't have much of playing time, I'm talking about the likes of Daniel Goh, Zamani for example as well, they all stepped up to the fore when required as well. Even the boys that came in late into the last 2-3 games of the season, when they played, they fit into a philosophy that was already there. It wasn't a different kind of philosophy that they had to get used to. So I think in terms of playing style, I think they got that nailed down, which not a lot of teams had it this season. Some teams that I think Khairul will mention about later, they even have a playing style.
Are we talking about Manchester United on this podcast?
But Young Lions had that through the core. I think from the first game to the last game, what improved was the execution, but they always had the plan, always had the philosophy from the start. I think kudos to the coaching staff for that.
And I also want to add that Tatsuma said for the Suzuki Cup squad, he's leaving space for players possibly to make the step up. It's also testament to how well they've adapted to playing week in, week out, and that also counts as reward, I guess, for the season they've had.
I think I agree, to a certain extent, that we can name the players, but also that's credit to the media work that's been done.
Okay,
right? To me, that's because we know, and the fact that these players are pushing in at 15, 16, the media is pushing a lot of spotlight on it. But at the same time, for me, I don't think that this team could measure up to the 2004, 2006 team, right? And I think it's not fair to say, because they do well in bits and pieces. They have a lot of possession at the back, right? They excite. They're a bit more compact and very harder to beat. They do not have big score lines. But on the whole, I feel it's more bits and pieces, and we can expect that from a Young Lions team, especially, right? But going forward, I think they have always had like 30 over players. This is something that as a coach you can plan. You know that he's going for NS at this time, he has school at this time. There's some way to plan, in a way. I'm not saying that, these can be excuses for them to be better. No, I'm not saying that. But at the same time, I say we can do risk management, or you can do management on this, knowing all this. So for me, I feel, I do not want to give a more credit than they get, personally, on the Young Lions team.
I think the problem...
They did well, exciting, but they're last in the table.
For me, the problem is Young Lions, they get a good result. Wow, Young Lions won. But they lose. National team, what? That's why they struggle. It cannot be either or. There must be consistency. And am I asking for too much from a young team? If we expect consistency?
I would, because we have seen it happen in 2004 and 2006. You were part of that? No, you
but,
were.
I know that team is very, very strong.
Yeah, but you see, I mean, of course, we had Agu and we had Chuli and everything. Yeah, but again, that base was very strong.
I've got to ask, right, because when you look at the stats, they've scored the least goals in the whole league. Is that an indication of what we have as a problem going forward in the national system? Because your Young Lions, I think you had Ilhan as your leading goal scorer with 7 goals. After that, you don't have goals from other strikers. I think you had Zamani sometimes playing up top. You sometimes had Khairul Nadim playing up top, but you don't have a proper goal scorer. Do you think that's a big problem going forward for the young teams in Singapore?
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, that was an issue for a while as well. I think in the local league, you know, a lot of times most clubs will sign a foreign player as their striker, and most teams tend to play with one striker rather than two. So the opportunities are not really there for players to sort of break through. Look, Ilhan and Khairul, as you mentioned, they're both very young players, right? There's lots of room for them to grow potentially. But yeah, I think, you know, when you look at the national team overall, that Iksan is our best bet at starting in that centre forward role. I don't see anyone above him.
No.
You know, I don't see anyone above him. He's got to start matches. Without him, we struggled so much in World Cup qualifiers and things like that. Unless Song comes in, and we've seen Song over the last few weeks or so at the end of the season play as that number 9 in a sense, in the absence of Stipe Plaziva.
With the wingers we got, that might work, you know.
Perhaps he's another option in there as well. But yeah, younger players coming through, it will take time to develop. It is an issue, that striking position up front. So Tatsuma has had to sort of figure out a way of playing without Iksan during the qualifiers. He tried different solutions. He tried Faris maybe in there. We tried Yase up front, which I don't think works for Yase at all. So yeah, it is an issue going forward. But you know, look, with these younger players coming through, hopefully it's something that they can sort out, and these guys can contribute going forward.
All right, so we're going to end it on this one for Young Lions. Now, with the revised under-23 rule coming up next season, they did finish last again this year. Will it be even harder for them next year with the reduction of under-23 players? Deepan, I would like to start with you on this one.
For the Young Lions?
Yeah.
I think you mentioned earlier, you asked Raushan about the squad makeup for next season. To be honest, I think it's quite up in the air. I think a lot of these other clubs in the league might go for the stand-up performance of Young Lions this season. I think I've already heard about Raihan Stewart going off to one of the SPL clubs. I think a lot of these SPL clubs will be interested in these individuals. At the moment, I think off the top of my head, I can remember that Geylang have a few players who will be going off to the Young Lions, because of NS. I do fear for the Young Lions next season because I thought this was a really good squad in terms of the individuals they had. I can't really think of who else is now going to step up to the Young Lions squad. I think Zikos might feature. I think Harith Kanadi from Geylang might feature. Elijah from Geylang might feature, but doesn't really strike fear into many of the other teams. So I think, Young Lions will struggle next season.
All right, so now on to the next position is Balestier Khalsa. We talked about having a certain style of play. Khairul, I'm going to start with you on this one. Did it really surprise you on their tactics and everything for their last season?
For Balestier,
Yeah.
I think no. I think it has always been Marco's kind of football. We all know it's Marco's kind of football. You know, so them being here, you know, because when you play a certain way, you build a process to do it some way. You have a target, you want to end somewhere. But it looks like it doesn't have much processes, right? Into what direction they want, where do they want to end in the league. So for me, where they are, I mean, they could have ended 4th. They could have ended 7th. So to me, you know, this is where they would definitely end, right? And I think it is no surprise that they could be they are at 7 now because of how they have set up and how they are. So I mean, I'm hearing that there are changes happening. Am I right?
I've heard.
I think we all have.
So I
What changes, huh?
Jersey change, bro. New
not Western next year.
New season, new jersey.
So apparently something is happening at the top. So hopefully, I know there may be more processes coming in. Even though players may not change, budgets may not change so much, but at least it's pleasing to the eye. That's
definitely,
we're looking forward to.
Okay, all right, fantastic. Roshan, on to you for this one. With Marco's final season and next year, we've heard of the changes that might be coming in. How do you think this will maybe change the Balestier Khalsa way of playing or moving forward?
Probably a good thing as well that they're moving away from Toa Payoh. I think they're going to go play next year because I don't know how you play a passing style of football on that pitch at Toa Payoh, which is a potato patch, and it's been terrible for years and years and years. I know I suffered an injury on that pitch years ago. Look, obviously they're looking at a different way of playing, right? If they're going to sort of revamp it, they're going to bring in some new players. They want it to sort of reflect the brand, I think, that they have in terms of their social media output and things like that. A bit more newer age, a bit more modern style of football. The name that was brought up in terms of the coach for next year was interesting to me. You know, I heard it was Akbar Nawas, who potentially could be taking over. I don't know. And with some of the players being exchanged around, some of the players coming in, it's going to be interesting to see how he sort of gets them going. I mean, with Marco, what he had also at times was, you know, as Carol said, the way that he plays. I don't mind that. I don't think it's the most entertaining. But again, it's about getting the results for you. And this season, it hasn't quite worked out for them. But as he said as well, they could have easily finished 5th, for example. Result had gone their way here and there. They could have finished in that. It's not that far a gap in those positions. It's very agricultural. It's just from
pitch or what?
both
In the whole sense.
the pitch and the style of play. I think in certain situations he was also limited a little bit by the quality in the squad, and that comes about from how they built the squad in there. I know people throughout the season have said, you know, how come they've got like 7 under 23 players on the bench at one point, for example, right? You know, so I mean, what is the most that you can do as a coach? And we saw in the last game against Lion City Sailors, for example, that goalkeeper shouldn't be in the squad. So I don't know what
Or the league.
He shouldn't be in there because, you know, it's something that the club has to look at as well. Why was he registered, you know, in those situations? And that's the kind of thing that kills coaches as well. But look, the style of play was not very exciting. But for me, I like variation in the league. I like that different teams pose different questions to others. And we've seen Lion City Sailors, for example, struggle at the potato patch at the Toa Payoh against Balestier's direct style of play, you know, needing that last-minute equalizer. So I like the fact that there's this variation. If everybody played sort of the same way, it'd get a bit stale for me. And it forces players to think. You know, you're thinking, how do I come up with this challenge? I know for a fact. I know for a fact that when teams go up to play against Balestier and they're playing at Toa Payoh, I know for a fact, and I've heard this, that the players are already before the game thinking, alamak, kena main kat Toa Payoh macam mana ni? Already inside the mind, and then you know, and then for training purposes, they have to go and find a grass
Similar type of
train at Yishun Stadium or what, you know, that kind of thing, and then they get a buffalo to run across the pitch. So who are you calling buffalo?
But Roshan, you know, you about differentiate different styles.
Yeah.
Another style which is very similar, but it looks very orchestrated and designed is the Hougang style.
Right. I know what you mean.
Yeah. But you see, it's not possession football, you know, but it's work effective and pleasing to the eye.
Correct.
Yeah. So to me, you know, Balestier.
No, there's that side of things to look at it as well. I mean, again, it's just about finding what's effective for you. If it's effective to get the ball, pump into the channel. The pattern is every time pump into the channel for Zuzul. In between the opposition right back and the opposition centre back.
And they fight for the second ball.
And then fight for second ball. But Zuzul, without him, they would, I don't know, man. He's like a one-man wrecking machine. And I don't know what the status is with him for next year, but he's someone that I would love to see stay in the league if possible.
All right. So finally, Roshan, on to you on this one. What do they need to do better for next season?
Wow. I mean, to start with, they're changing their coach, and this is not throwing shade at Marco or anything like that, but he's been there for a long time. And maybe it's time for a reset. And I think that's what maybe the management and all are trying to do, set a reset in play, right? And when you see clubs like LCS revamping football, so to speak, in the local, you have to do something, to try and do something. And I think if the rumored moves are to be believed, then they're moving in the right direction of trying to set a reset in place. I just worry about how long he'll be given, and if results start going bad, then people are going to say it wasn't so bad last year.
Bring Marco back.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they'll do it
It happened,
again.
It happened.
Yeah, I mean, it happened before once. It might happen again, but I think
And is he going to lurk, or that's also my problem? Like, if he's going to stay here, then he's always going to be in people's mind, and then things don't go their way.
Yeah, but I think what's important is you talk about the squad that Balestier has. I have actually believed for a long time that they have a group of foreigners who could be the best in the league in terms of as a group of four. So I don't quite believe that they had the worst of squads. I believe that Marco could have done much better with the players that he had. I don't necessarily think that they played to their strengths actually, because you look at Krajicek in the middle, you look at Hoshino, who's been playing more of off the striker kind of role. I don't think that's his best position, because we've seen
his goals return has been bad as well.
Yes, and I think Hoshino can do much better in and
At the
around the
top,
box.
yeah.
I think it goes down to coaching at the end of the day and making the best use of your resources. So I think it's a good departure for both sides. I think Marco needs a fresh challenge as well. I think Bellison need fresh ideas as well. So it's good move for both parties.
And I agree with the foreign contingent you speak of, but I think next season it's going to be broken up because that was assembled by Marco anyway. So new coach, new ideas, new foreigners possibly.
But there's an insight on this. I think personally, I mean, for me, if you want to build a team, you have to build the last player.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah,
That's important.
yeah,
And the insight that I know of is that Balestier, whenever they are set up to play, they are set up to train, there's so much emphasis on the foreigners. That they give every responsibility to the foreigners. That the rest of the players feel very unimportant, unappreciated, not developing as they should. Right? So I think in that aspect, the over-reliance, I mean, their quality as such, as we agree. But if it's only on the dependence on these four, I think they cannot grow as a team. So that has been one of the stories from the ground.
Yeah, speaking of like Hoshino and like, you know, him being in the box, it's so frustrating to see him on the flank playing crosses in when I tell myself, you need to be in the box there to like hit the ball in, not be crossing it in.
Yeah.
But of course, speaking of frustration, let's move on to Geylang.
I've been waiting for this.
Geylang, where do we start? Khairul, I need to start this with you. Where do we start with Geylang?
You know, before the review show, I was listening to my preview show, my part of preview.
Yeah.
I was forecasting a 3rd, 4th finish for them.
Wow.
Right? And I thought they should, because building on an AFC season, AFC qualifying season, I think they had a good technical team, and then they had a very balanced team. Maybe a bit short on the defense, but I felt midfield they were strong. They could have been strong if some of the strikers who they sent home were still around.
Yeah.
So I felt that, you know, the problems were not footballing. There were other problems that caused the breakdown of Geylang's performance. Yeah. So for me, I feel, you know, they have underachieved tremendously. Certain games, and it's not just that the fact that staff are leaving, players are leaving, there's infighting in the team, within the players and the coaches. So I think all of these things is they need something new. They need something new.
It's definitely bringing them
But
down.
considering all the problems you mentioned, right, infighting, players leaving, striker leaving at the start, is it that bad then that they finish 6th? I mean, a club realistically going through all that should finish last, right?
Yeah, so I think I just want to touch on something Khairul said. So he talks about all these problems within Geylang, which is fair enough. I've heard of them as well. But I think this makes it harder for the coach, which goes to your point. So I think the coach, to me at least, has handled the situation well in a sense where it could have gone all bad. You know?
I mean, as a coach, you want to be concentrating on the football, but out of your choices or not, you are putting out fires everywhere else. So you take your eye off the football,
and
right?
These are also problems that were enforced, like injuries. I think Lukman had a bad injury at the start of the season. He was going to be the starting right winger for Noah Ali. And then he went out, and then suddenly they have to rejig Silvano Comavillos, who I thought was going to be the Golden Boot winner, because I looked at his goals record and this guy is going to fire Geylang to a top 3, top 4 finish, but that didn't transpire as well. He left. So in that case, wouldn't you say that the coach has handled the team quite well, given the fact that all these things have happened, but he has put a lid on it and got the team, the likes of Amy, Morash, firing to the best of their abilities?
I think any machinery you can't crumble as bad as any machinery. And then we have players over there who have certain desire, certain people like Barry Maguire, even his class, right? He's one of the best. You wouldn't think that he would go out and play and not play well, right? They will still play well. At the end of the day, players are professional, right? I think players have gone through the time when Warriors was in chaos, right? But they still did okay. They were in the top. They were in the Singapore Cup
final.
Right. So you cannot say that it's like, because there's always a machinery that will work.
Okay, I see your point.
So for me, to be fair, they were also within that 9 and number 8, number 7 placing. So for me, I feel that you cannot say that certain breakdowns, right? Because at the end of the day, there's still a certain amount of professionalism. If I'm the assistant coach, I come, I still need to work. I'm a match analyst, I still come, I still want to work. Right? It's not as if I'm not coming and there's nobody running the training and everything.
Okay.
So to me, to say that, at every instance, you being number 8 then is a justification of all the problems, then I think it's wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
For me,
okay.
personally. Yeah.
So the thing is now, big question: should he still be given another season? I'm going to leave it up to anyone to try.
No, I think that Noah Ali should be given another season simply because we talk about this season alone, and yeah, they've massively underachieved. I completely agree with that. But last season, he brought them to an AFC Cup spot. Yeah, fair enough, they didn't get to play in the AFC Cup, but that's not his fault. I think the squad that he had when they got to AFC Cup spot wasn't fantastic, but he still got there. I think I enjoyed watching Geylang play in that season. But this season, yes, I admit it hasn't been fantastic. Sometimes you see matches where the style of play between the first half and the second half is completely different. Them pressing high up in the first half, second half not able to sustain that press, for example. I do think that if you give Noah Ali a better squad than he had this season, given the injuries, given the players who left halfway, I do think Noah Ali can do much better than having Geylang finish 6th in the table. I'm not sure what Khairul
So
thinks.
wait, sorry,
I
can I
think
just
they have
jump
a
in
strong
and
squad.
very quickly ask then why the double standard here between Noah Ali and Marco? Because Marco with Balestier last season they finished in 5th, right? So by that reckoning, if we're going and saying he deserves another season, maybe he's at one off season, he deserves another season to see whether he can really sort of revamp in those situations. You speak about AFC Cup, he brought Balestier to the AFC Cup as well. He's been relatively successful for them. He's had spells there where he's, I think, more than pulled his weight with the qualities that were available to him in terms of his squad. So I'm just trying to figure out here why is there's this thinking now that for Noah Ali is different. He deserves another. When Marco has done pretty much
Fair question.
good things
I
at
think you look
Balestier
at
as well.
Marco and the time that he has spent at Balestier, he has got such a long spell there at Balestier. Yes, it was 2 spells, I would say, but a long spell at Balestier. I think for Noah Ali, I think when he has come in, a lot of doubts over his credentials. Why is he a coach at Geylang? A club steeped in so much of history. But I thought last season was an indication of what kind of a coach he can be. You speak to the players that still have his backing, I would say, the likes of Amy and so on. They will tell you that he's a good person, a good man manager. Yeah, from the outside, there are people who say things differently. But if you look at Noah Ali's record at Geylang, I do think he's achieved well in the last 2 years. This year, it's been a bad season. Let's call it as it is. But I do think based on the achievements that he had in the previous season, he deserves another season. To answer Roshan's point about Marco, I do believe that Marco had a long time to prove himself. I wouldn't call Marco a bad coach. I think he's a good coach, but Balestier needed something refreshing, which is why they've gone for the decision that they've made. For Geylang, I don't think they need something refreshing at the moment. I do think they need to give Noah Ali a better squad to compete with the top teams. If Noah Ali had been given a squad this season where you could say, not many injuries, he could work with the likes of Amy, Moraes. Like for example, when Convalios went out, there was no replacement in terms of a lead striker for them. And I sometimes imagine with Amy and Moraes, if there was a central figure there, they could have won games, much more games than they did this season. So whereas for Marco, I said they had the best foreigners in the league. So in that sense, I do feel like Noah Ali deserves more than what he's getting. But I'm not sure what the others think. I think Khairul definitely disagrees with me.
I think he has underachieved this year with 6. And to be honest, last year also I think he underachieved. I think he had a good squad. He had good players at every position. Good 2 players at every position, I felt. And I think he could get top 2. And it was a very unstable league last year because of the COVID and the situation. Even Lion City also has struggled, right? So it was a time where he had a year before to prepare. With the year that they had a very balanced team, right? And I thought them being in, they qualified for AFC, but they could have been top 2. Personally, there's a lot of games where certain things could have happened and he didn't do it, right? But okay, of course, they take the AFC Cup, and furthermore, it happened similarly this year again. So to me, I look at it as a downslide rather than he did well AFC, then he didn't have a good team. So again, you have to see what is the reasoning for Silvano not being around. What is happening between Moshe and Barry in and on and off the pitch. What's happening between the midfielders. So where is the problem? So to me, everything, a leader has to take the responsibility for things. So for me, if the rod doesn't stop, but one thing, if everyone is going out,
that's my point.
He brings a new group of players. He's a sort that if you get to know someone, but after that, you see the situation, what happens. I mean, we in the football scene, we know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he hasn't changed. So for me, that is the only saving grace. If he gets a new group of players
Yeah.
and a
And
hungry
I
group of
believe,
players,
if rumors are to believe, that's what's going to happen. Because he is, apart from one senior goalkeeper,
What rumors?
check out our podcast, Rated RR. No, guys, kidding.
cross marketing, cross marketing.
No,
Throwing
but
it in there.
People show.
reminds me of someone.
Get out. Get out now.
Don't worry, I won't comment on the post. But anyway, guys, that's what these rumors are to be believed. He's going to lose everyone. There's only going to be one senior goalkeeper. And to Khairul's point, if you get to build from scratch, I think he deserves that chance to do it. And he knows the club enough. There'll be too much upheaval if not. If everything is going to be new, right? And perhaps that's why he deserves.
Sorry, but I
one
just
last
need to
year.
ask, right? Looking at the standings, where did you expect Geylang to finish? To say that okay, if they had finished there, then it would have been a successful season. Because I look at the teams, LCS, Albrechts, Hougang, Tampines. You would definitely say most likely should have finished above Geylang.
Yeah.
Yes. So where do you think Geylang should have finished? And then you say no, Ali has done a good job.
But
I would think third and fourth, Hougang above Rovers, because Rovers we knew that ACL would make them struggle.
of course, yeah.
So they should have been here. Yeah.
Roshan, sorry, I just need to ask you, in terms of a coaching appointment in the SPL, what constitutes being a success or a failure? Because like I mentioned, Noah Ali, he brought Geylang to AFC Cup spot, and based on that, I said it was a success. And in this season, we are saying that dropped down a few places and suddenly he's a failure and he should go. What is the balance? When do you say it's been a success and it's been a failure?
It's up to you, right? You determine what you want to determine, and ultimately, in terms of the person losing his job or whatever, it's determined by the chairman or the management or whoever it is who has set those pre-season targets along the way. Whether it's a successful season, whether it was a failure of a season, what the reasons were behind it. But you look at this Geylang international squad overall, and look, I think it's fine. Noah Ali has another season, fine, to pick it up. I think he's done a decent enough job for them over the last few years or so. But in any organization, the top man should be the one that has to be under the most pressure and should be answering. And you need to sort of foster a culture within that team where we talk about all these issues. Why are these issues happening? And then you look at the figurehead and you ask questions about the figurehead. Is it not strong enough? What's happening in these situations, in these areas? Why is there infighting within the squad? Is that a sign of a poor, toxic work culture in a situation around it? So those are questions that I think are fair enough to sort of be asked. And we all have our different opinions. And we've heard from Khairul, we've heard from Deepan about it. Raushan has come in with his rumors and things like that. I think for me, when you look at them in sixth, it's sixth and 1 point above Balestier, which we have absolutely battered Balestier.
Yep.
We have absolutely battered Balestier. 1 point above Balestier, same number of goals conceded, fewer goals scored, one fewer than Balestier Khalsa, Geylang in sixth. So to me, I think I personally also feel that's not good enough for them. A fifth place, convincing fifth place would have been good for me. Would have been a successful, convincing fifth place. Because now Tanjung Pagar United has just gone from last season to fifth.
Respect.
And I think that's where we might be moving on.
Actually, the perfect segue into Tanjung Pagar.
Kidding, guys, sorry.
Well, yeah, actually, that's the perfect segue into going into Tanjung Pagar United. Last year, we spoke about it at the review show. They finished last. We were disappointed. But now, they actually find themselves 5 points off an AFC Cup spot in fifth. Raushan, I'm going to start with you on this one. Did you really expect this from them?
Not based on last season.
Oh, yeah, definitely
but
not.
halfway through this season, I did feel like something good was brewing. And I think they followed up on the promise, and they're one of my favorite teams to watch.
Yep.
Purely because I just think there's a good culture there, and we speak to some of the coaches, some of the players, they do talk about this kampong spirit almost, and that runs through the club, and they come together nicely. And on the footballing side of things, I think they've really given a good account of themselves this year. And sometimes last year when they finished last, then they say we're building on something.
Oh, yeah.
If they hadn't followed through this year, then you're going to be like, bro, what are you talking about, bro?
sorry.
Where's the progress? So at least this year, they've followed through on certain promises to move in the right direction, and that's good to see. And to be fair, midway through when the season resumed, I did say the bottom half of the table is going to be more exciting than the top half. And it turned out that way for me because I think it was good to see Tanjong Pagar especially push the charge from the bottom to finish 5th as they have.
Especially with that last game of the season, you know, when we saw 4-1, they were losing the Albrechts.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
a lot of us were
Yeah.
like,
I think that's quite poetic, right? It sums up their season almost. To be on the ropes and then and some of the goals they scored as well.
Amazing goals, yeah.
Rosh can tell us all about the goals they scored, but yeah.
Which actually, Rush, I was going to go to you to this one actually. Like, we've seen the goal scoring charts, you know, they have actually a number of players who've actually contributed with a number of goals. You know, you had Luis Jr. with their top
Rio
goal
and
scorer.
all that.
Rio was fantastic.
Ronaldo.
Oh, he was so good during that season. Rush, how do you think it clicked for them this season?
I think when you listen in, the best is from us, from the outsiders. We have an outsider's view, right? But I always find it's the best is when you get the insight from people who are living it and going through it, and you get accurate information from them.
Not rumours, huh?
Not rumors. No, not rumors. Accurate information from them. And I think, you know, what they've said is that, you know, they were, as Roshan quite rightly brought it up, they were sort of building towards something, whatever thing that was. And somehow it sort of clicked in terms of the systems of play that they had, especially. I think for me, from the outside looking in, was the Shake coming in, I think, make a big difference. Stability. You know, playing in the center of that back three. And I was surprised that the impact that he had, because I thought, you know, maybe he played on the left side, but he played in the center and he marshaled
After
the
that
defense.
especially after the first time he came back, that own goal.
Exactly, and it could have against Geylang, right? I think it was a shocking own goal, but you know, he bounced back from that. And Farid's for me also has been like kind of like a revelation. They have essentially guys who are fullbacks or wingbacks playing in central defense. And the reasoning behind that is because they wanted these players to be able to push forward as well to support the attack. So what you see sometimes is if Farid is playing on the left side of the back three, then you've got Shodai pushing forward from the left wing back position, and then Rio is like a free roll, right, on the left side. So you see a lot of rotations in those positions, and sometimes Farid, if you notice, he's allowed to just push on further with the ball. Drive with the ball through midfield and play those passes in behind. That's where they've been able to execute a lot of good movements down the left-hand side. And I think that has been a key part of why they've been able to get sort of the goals that they had. Rio, especially with the free roll that he's got. I think Rio with the free roll starts out on the left-hand side but can drift into infield in all those positions. And I think he's one of the league's best dribblers. If I'm not wrong
I
as well.
feel though, on Rio's point, excellent dribbler, good player to watch, but he's got 9 goals, which is decent. But sometimes I see his finishing, he could have easily gone into double digits just purely based on the position he gets in. So if he was more clinical that way, we might be talking about Tanjong Pagar higher up the table.
And for someone who he's actually huge. He has a big stature to develop, and he can
Powerful
really
player.
dribble. Very powerful. And you know that last goal, the equalizing
the
goal,
solo
against
goal.
Albrechts.
And
Showed
the
everything.
young players coming through,
Fatullah.
Anaki, I mean, those two are
Fatullah.
the stand out.
Yeah.
Those two are the stand out.
Anaki is lonely, but
Yeah.
Fatullah is
Fatullah,
he's a fine. He's a fine.
And I mean Rujaidi with his quality delivery, you know, from the right hand side playing as the right wing back. But Fatullah is a player that I really like. Really like.
Very
I mean,
tidy.
18 years of
Very
age,
confident.
and then he plays.
He's
so
baby
good on the
face.
ball.
Every time I see him, he's got a baby face.
He doesn't, you know, and don't take this the wrong way, but he doesn't really look like he's a footballer, you know, in the sense, you know, he's hunched over a little bit, you know, but brilliant footballer at 18, and it's not just that he's hard running, you know. I mean, he's hard running, he works his socks off, he does so much, he's got great work rate. But it's quality on the ball, the composure in those positions.
Balancing the game,
playing one touch, one and two touches, understanding of when to play quick passes, move, play, receive again into a space. I think he's been very impressive. I'm personally a bit disappointed he wasn't picked in the
Young player of the year.
not just the young player, the AFC under 23.
okay.
Personally, I was a bit disappointed that he wasn't.
Actually, this is a very good segue into the next one. Speaking of disappointment,
I'm just keep throwing that. you just keep hitting those home runs, man.
it makes my job so much easier. But speaking of which, disappointment, should Hazrin Jailani have been at least nominated? Dipan, I want to throw this at you.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Let's do it.
I think it's a resounding answer.
I think we know what Khairul thinks.
I mean, yeah, I do sense I do sense the disappointment
Four
as to
tweets
why.
above,
But to me, it's a tough one because the names that were on the short list deserve to be there. Clement deserved to be there in my books. Philip deserved to be there in my books. Shigetomi deserved to be there in my book. So I do see the arguments for why they were there. But I think Hazrin has done a fantastic job for sure. Given the fact of where they finished last season, identity to their play, I think he has done a fantastic job. Alongside Noah Alam Shah, I think both of them have worked in tandem, done so well. I've gone down to actually observe a few of the training sessions before. They've got a good culture about them. They something similar to Albrechts where they get their young players to wash the balls and the boots after training sessions. So it's something to admire. You know, you don't see that at other clubs. Noah Alam Shah really keeps everybody on their toes for reasons that we all know, of course. Fatullah, like Roshan mentioned, to me, I really loved the fact that he came because he didn't start the season there with Tanjong Pagar, former Tampines Rovers player, I believe, and he's done so well for himself. One game in particular sticks in my mind, and that was against Albrechts, where Albrechts were quick to press him because they realized that a lot of their attacks could start from him in terms of midfield. But he got out of the press easily, and this is a young boy that we're talking about playing in his first professional season in the SPL, but so much of maturity to his play. But to answer your question, I think Hazrin deserved a nomination. Maybe they should expand the nominee list to 5, like the final whistle does.
So if the top nominations, 3 nominations as they are, Pippo, Clement and Shigetomi, you'll keep them as it is. You won't bring Hazrin in.
I won't bring Hazrin in. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would bring Hazrin in.
You would?
I would.
You would?
I think I'm surprised if FAS does these nominations, right, based on a few other. I would be very angry at FAS. But if it's voted by the coaches and the GMs and the captains, then my question back: are you all believing that the narrative of our league being a developmental league? Because our developmental league is not a developmental league. It is an elite league. So if you get a coach that finishes last, you put it in nomination? No, definitely not.
I buy the argument.
So are we still listening to Bernard Lim that is developing? No, it cannot be. Right? So as much as Philip is a good friend and it seems like I'm attacking Philip. No. Right? Previously also they were talk about I'm against how he brings up the young players. No, it's not. I respect him as it is. He's a very good coach. But he doesn't deserve to be here. As simple as that.
That's again, I mean, I guess this is a topic for another podcast, but that thing about not being able to disagree on topics is a strange one, and then people just instantly think that you become enemies or whatever. It's a weird one, I mean, you can disagree and still be okay and still move on and just have a discussion. It doesn't mean that I hate this guy or I hate that guy. So for you to sort of have to bring it up as well.
That's like you have to.
People will be even people watching or listening in out there will be a bit he doesn't like Philip. Wow, you hantam Philip. But rumors. I think just we can have different opinions about things, and
these are my facts. I give it to you. You like it or not?
Again, I like how these conversations are actually bringing like a perfect segue into the next one. Disagreements and everything in between. Dipan, let's start with Tampines Rovers. Okay, so what went wrong this year?
Sorry.
What went wrong this year? I think it's easier to answer what went right for them this season. Tampines Rovers. I think you've got to look at their season in 2 parts, right? Almost the before the Asian Champions League and after the Asian Champions League. I remember having a chat with a few of my friends, and I said, "Wow, when they come back from Asian Champions League, I know it's been bad results, but they're going to be a different beast." They have been a different beast, but not in the way that I
BC and
expected
AD.
them to. You've got to look at the reasons, and you've got to look at the squad. Did they have a squad capable of competing in a competition like the Asian Champions League and balancing it out with the Singapore Premier League? I don't think so, because when they came back from the Asian Champions League, you could see that fatigue had already set in. Even the last few games in the Asian Champions League, and then they go into quarantine. They had, of course, a few COVID cases, couldn't train. They made arrangements to train in a bubble, but that couldn't happen. They couldn't train, had to sit in their hotels. And it didn't help them all. The moment they came back until the last game of the season, they never looked right in any of those games. I mean, to be beaten 5-2, I believe, against Balestier Khalsa, that tells you the story. The fact that Balestier are able to...
It's a Topayo miracle.
They call me the Topayo miracle as well. But to me, I think you've got to look at the problems. And look, I think Gavin has to accept some form of blame for how the season has gone. You look at the squad and you look at the certain players that kept playing game after game despite having terrible performances. You've got to question the coach. You look at Boris, for example. Yes, I know he's got 16 goals this season, but has he stood out in every game that he has played? Has the likes of Kyoga and Zarudin deserved to start game after game?
But who else?
You've got options on the bench. Okay, for example, we talk about Taufik Suparno, who, when he plays, he scores a goal. Why doesn't he get a starting role in that team? Why was Huzaifa Aziz signed midway through the season and did not get a chance in the playing squad? I think you could have rotated a few options. I think players like Huzaifa, even Fazrul, for example. You saw Fazrul sometimes come on the wing. Yes, we have seen that for Singapore national team even. But Fazrul at this age, he offers 100%. You some experience in and around the box. You could have played him as a number 10, as a number 9. I think those were options that Gavin could have used. I think it's to me a bit silly to go back and say the squad isn't good enough, and
Okay, but you talk about the squad. Then was it not above Gavin to equip them with a decent enough squad to go and compete in the Champions League? No point, there's Champions League coming up, but you say it's okay. The players we have, alright, bro. Clearly, they're alright, bro.
Try
Try, exactly. And then now it's all they will learn from this, they will learn from this. But when you qualified, you never learn anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And to also go back to Gavin, and sorry for, and maybe Roshan can disagree with me on this, but you look at the way Gavin set his team up. In terms of sometimes having the defensive line push quite high up the pitch, and we saw that especially against the Lion City Sailors at Jalan Besar. I think that's when Tampines lost 4-1, I believe. It was a high line, and then you have Daniel Bennett and Baihaki playing there.
Yeah.
Are you playing to the strengths of your team? I don't quite think so.
Yeah.
To me, I felt that was the differing point from last season for me, because I thought with Tampines last season, you knew they had the identity. You knew how they were going to play, and they played to the strengths of the players in terms of the passing football, the positions that they take up on the pitch. But this season, I didn't quite see that.
No, I think they were just not caught up last year. They did play the same way as they have played, and maybe he overestimated everything. The age of the players, the AFC impact, the Champions League impact, and everything else, right? So I think he overestimated everything. Because of all this, he decided to set out the same way. I felt
They had a much better squad last year as well.
Yeah,
I
of
think.
course. Yeah.
I mean,
Even
like
with Ali,
Ali in
yeah,
centre back
yeah,
was a big
yeah.
miss.
Correct,
I
correct.
think for me, and then Sharul as well.
Yes,
Sharul, I think
Shah,
left.
so second half, Shah is not around.
Exactly, Joel is
Joel
there
as well. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like it was quite. And I mean, people don't like it when we all harp on about Jordan Webb, but Jordan Webb
Yeah.
effective
Yeah.
was effective for them.
As much as Amin gives 11 assists, but Jordan Webb gives a different
Of
dimension.
Gives
course,
something
yeah,
different.
yeah,
You
yeah.
can feel,
Yeah.
that it gives the atmosphere also.
Correct. I mean, I think move on. Like, okay, time to move on. But I'm just kind of highlighting that the squad is.
But
is
having
very
said
much
that,
different.
but having said all this about Tampines, however bad we have, because the recent impression of what we have of them is they've been losing and being thrashed, but they are fourth on the table, right? And if we put Philip at as a nominee, and we think Hasrin deserves a nomination because
What about Gavin?
Yeah, what about Gavin? He deserves as much as anybody.
Yeah. No,
and
I mean-
if we are in the time where we are not giving Kim a nomination, why not?
Yeah. Another thing we gotta be clear that for me personally, all these coaches in here, because they're in the hot seat, they're doing the job and all that, will always have my respect.
of
But
course.
Gavin, for example, I think he's a very talented coach, and this is like his first sort of speed bump.
Yeah.
in a sense. Massive speed bump.
And you need a storming, like a conflict point before you grow.
Of course.
This is his conflict point. We have to give it to him.
And I
But-
think the management as well, for me, you brought up a great point about equipping the squad for things ahead. I don't know whether it's budgetary constraints and things like that. That can that definitely will have some impact on what they do. In terms of the impact of losing players like Shah, and then thinking maybe Iman could come in.
could come in,
Unfortunately, it wasn't quite at the same sort of level. So those kind of things will have an impact, lah. But I'm really excited about what they can do next season. I hope that you say learn lessons. We'll see what they do in the transfer window. I think we need a commanding presence in central defense, someone who's a solid defender. Plenty of rumors about that as well.
Sorry, just want to edit my point a bit. I know, I understand. I've been quite critical about Gavin and what I said, but I'm saying all this because I put Gavin in a good state. I think he's one of the top young managers, not just in Singapore but around the region.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
I think he's got
Footballing minds.
Yeah, he's got a great future ahead. So in terms of, I think what he could have done better, that's what I'm talking about. But one thing tactically that I would like to point out as well, and perhaps we could discuss this, is the fact that for a team like Tampines, I think what's important is your defensive transitions. And somehow or rather this season, they were quite bad in those moments where a lot of the goals that they considered happened during this
Even last
transitions.
year.
Even
Even
last
last
year.
year.
But this year, like you mentioned, they were caught up quite a lot. And sometimes I wonder, is this because there's a lack of complete buy-in from players where they are not quite like tuned on in terms of the transitions? Because some of the goals I remember they've considered this season was them being outrun by the attacker on the counter attack. They didn't quite keep up pace with them. So is this a problem of the players not having a complete buy-in, or just fatigue, pure fatigue?
I think they looked like they were shattered, man.
Yeah.
During the AFC Champions League, that schedule,
Yeah.
You know, when you go into that schedule and then they're playing every 3 days.
Yeah, I think it's horrible.
They don't have they don't have like a squad like Jombuk.
Yeah.
1-11, second 11 comes
Gustavo
in.
comes
And then still that second 11 can win like the league title or something, for example. You know, they didn't have like a Gamba squad like a Gamba with internationals and
I
things
think it's
like that.
mental fatigue. You mentioned there's a lot of mental
They were
fatigue.
shattered. So you had a lot of young players having to come in and just basically trying to see out these games,
games,
get
yeah.
themselves through.
Yeah.
And then they come back, they kena quarantine. That again takes away the rhythm and the
then you
momentum.
kena whack,
And then
yeah.
kena whack, and then your confidence all just drains. And confidence
And
is
the
huge.
cycle doesn't. It's not
Yeah.
easy.
Vicious
to get out.
cycle. Yeah, you gotta stop.
Because confidence is so important as a player. Sometimes when you're not confident, you overthink simple things like controlling pass.
Yeah. And you see, if you are, I'm not trying to bring down Balestier. If you're a team like Balestier, chances are you're gonna get 2 or 3 wins over that stretch.
Yeah.
But because it's Tampines, you thrive on confidence, the way you play, and there's some processes that you do.
Yeah.
So definitely, if you can't get out the cycle, you can't get out the cycle.
And people were making the key to that as well. That one of the things that sort of drives home the point is people like Nakamura, Nemanovic making simple technical errors. And they're usually incredibly reliant on the ball. Suddenly lose touch here and then kena counter attack.
That's a brilliant point. I think when you see the likes of Kyoga Nakamura losing the ball on the edge of the area, that tells you they're not quite 100% themselves.
It's not into you, your teammates also surrounding you. So
And when you see someone as a teammate, I see Kyoga lose the ball, I so cannot lah. Like this, you know what I mean? Kalau dia tak boleh, mesti aku tak boleh. You know what I mean? It's confirm happen. What?
So, I mean, yeah, brilliant. Again, another great segue.
You're just saying it for the sake of it, man.
It's all brilliant because I think, Rosh, I have to go through this question with you. You've been in that team setting within a squad itself. In fighting, is it normal for teams to be passionate, or is this something else at Tampines that you maybe see inside?
What infighting, huh?
I don't know. There was an article that I read previously. But
Yeah, there was a good article. I don't know by who. I can't remember.
Story of the year. Oh no.
Yeah, there was a nice article about it actually, about what was going on behind the scenes, and it was quite insightful, I thought. And obviously there was whoever it was who didn't want to be named or whatever spoke about it, and then Yase was there saying that there was no such thing or whatever. So there must have been some issues within the squad, within the team. And I remember that this game against Lion City Sailors where they lost 6-1, and I was thinking to myself on commentary after the match, I said, I wonder whether these guys are going to everyone accept collective responsibility and say, guys, we've all been not good
we
enough.
screwed up. Yeah.
We've all been not good enough. Okay, let's not fight, turn on each other. Or is it going to be something as I got my own ego, you his own ego? It's because of him. Because of that. We okay, but this guy. If that seeps into the squad, then you're dead. You're finished. You're finished. Frankly, I'm surprised they were able to draw that game against Albirex 0-0. And I think Albirex had more than enough chances to win that one. Think of the chances Savoy had, Kondo had, for example. Nagasawa had late on. They could have easily won that. But look, it's that infighting, and once there's that seeps into the squad where people are just not together. You can always everyone can just say we are all together. We are nonsense. Let's try. But they won't. Because at the end of the day, also team game, right? Collective responsibility, and you need like these strong leaders. The leaders in that squad, the senior players in that squad, actually need
Has
to be
to
the
rally
ones
them,
that slap. If any like young player, whatever, you say that about him and all that. Just not literally slap, but figuratively.
But we don't have those kind of figures anymore. I think we have only Haris now.
And if the senior players, Khairul, the senior players are the ones who say, tak tahu dia macam ni, or I don't know about him, that guy.
But sometimes it can be a reason because I think we have seen over the past 5 years when a coach is not too mature, or not say too mature, it's the age. At the end of the day, they look at the figure that what the age is. Then the senior players
take control.
Okay.
And possibly, I mean, if it's true lah, if it's true that whatever the article says, I mean, we look
Are you
at
doubting the journalists?
we look at Balestier.
ST quite doubtable.
We look at Balestier in 2020 when my brother was there. It's the same thing. They played a bit of good football, and then there was supposed to be a bit of a push, and then the senior players decided, no, we're not going to work this hard. So, and then before that, even Philip at Hougang or at Home United. So when the age is a bit smaller as a coach, I think this comes into the picture. It creeps into it.
I don't think I've had a situation when I think back to the time I was playing where it was like this kind of serious kind of infighting. Of course, we had an issue. I think it was at SAF. We weren't quite playing as well as we would have liked. And one of the senior players was saying that, because our squad no good lah, all the bench players not pushing us or whatever. And so I was one of the guys who was on the bench, and I said, look, why are you blaming us? You guys are the ones who are first 11. You're the first 11, you're not pulling up your socks. And then someone said to him, dah kena balik. Then after that, so this kind of things is like, sometimes it can have that effect where, okay lah, we shouldn't have said those things to each other. Let's come together. Other times it can, fester and get out of hand. And I think what Carol is saying is right lah. If there's a senior figure, if the coach is really in control and he knows about all this happening, then he can sort of start to pull people back together. But if you just sort of let people, okay lah, no, they will settle it themselves. Sometimes it can fester.
But I like that point about this being Gavin's biggest challenge. That's exciting for me because we talk about what an exciting coach he is, and then we talk about going through the biggest challenge yet of his very young career. Now next season we all wait to see how he's going to deal with it, what comes of it, right? I think there's a lot to look forward to in that sense.
For sure. Speaking of looking forward, let's look
Another
into
segue.
Perfect. But
I'll send you the check later.
let's do it. But okay, Hougang, we spoke to Firdaus Qasim earlier on in the season, and we spoke about the poor season that they had previously, that they were building something, that there was something special that might happen. And I think this season they definitely started off very well. Going to Roshan for this one, do you think they achieved their objectives for the season?
I don't think so. I mean, I spoke to Clement, I think in the 3-0 loss to Balestier. I was working on it, then I spoke to him. And he admitted that the second half of the season hasn't lived up to the first half of the season, the promise they showed, right? And I think that's where they feel they could have run the top two teams closer. But again, steps in the right direction. And I guess Clement got nominated for Coach of the Year. In fact, won Coach of the Year. So he must be doing something, right?
So, but Doi, how big has he been, Khairul? I mean, as an agent yourself, when you move on these players to like different clubs, how big has Doi been for Hougang United this season?
It's not fair. Giba is my player. But I guess for me, I think, like I said, I know I'm in awe in how he is as a footballer, finishing fantastic, determination and everything. But I feel that he has been very one-dimensional in the sense of how Hougang could be better, right? So he has scored the goals, but I felt perhaps if there wasn't him and another striker, there could be a more balanced amount of goals.
Okay,
because there were times where he was against a brick wall and he would still dribble and shoot. So to me, this was very, very, very frustrating. But at the same time, you have to credit him. He's young. He's 23, right? And you have to understand these Albirex players. They come from universities levels. They are not professionals per se. Maybe some of them come from the academies, but that's all. Right, so they also need to they are very hungry. They have a lot at stake when they leave the country. Right, so they have to be this little bit selfish. So
almost desperate to do something of the opportunity.
Correct,
right?
Correct. And I think he will get offers around the region. He has been getting offers around the region. So for me, I cannot downplay. But I feel that even without his goals, they will be still beaten because Hougang has built a team.
Sorry, I completely disagree. I think without Doi's goals, Hougang will be further down the table. I think I understand the point about what Khairul is saying about Doi. The fact that Doi is someone who doesn't really contribute to the team in other areas, but contributes the goal front. I think with Doi, what they had was someone who, even in games where they weren't playing that great, he could bail them out with goals. And there were a couple of games like that Hougang played this season. Even that big win against Tampines Rovers, I think he was clinical with his chances. I think that's what's different with the other strikers in the league. To me, what Hougang lacks is the fact that they seem to be always up for the big games. They won against Lions City Sailors, Tampines Rovers. But somehow or rather, when they face teams like Young Lions, Balestier Castle, something goes wrong with them. And is this a case of mentality? I'm not quite sure. Or is this a case of they don't have that squad to play against some of these teams that perhaps sit back against them? Because you look at the wins against Tampines Rovers and Lions City Sailors. Yes, against Lions City Sailors, that win, the 3-1 win at Jalan Besar was because of a couple of individual errors from Sailors. But they like to break on these teams on the counter attack and get these goals. Do they have a team to really play against a team that sits back? I'm not quite sure. And that's where Doi comes crucial for them, right? So I do think that everything wrapped around Doi for them this season. I think without Doi, they will fare much worse in the season. I'm not sure what the others think.
I agree on your point that the fact that they struggle against smaller teams because they do not have a number 10.
That's a very good point.
Because Kaishu play makes from deep.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's
So
got
that-
the most assists with 8 assists.
And only in the first part of the season.
Yeah.
So he racked up 7 or 6 in the first part of the season.
Yeah.
With corners and everything. So the playmaking starts below.
Yeah.
And they don't have that number 10 who can support and break defense and break the lines, those kind of things. That's to me. So and of course Gilberto was out for a long period of time. With 2 bouts of being out. So I think that is one of the reasons as well they can excel
Would
in
you
small teams.
would you consider Hougang a counter-attacking team? Do you think it's unfair for me to brand them as a counter-attacking team?
No, first of all, I don't think counter-attacking is an insult. I think it's one of the more exciting ways to play football.
right? Yeah.
You know, it's very quick, it's fast, and you got to transition very quickly. And all that. I think there are other ways to get around the lack of a number 10. I think structurally, in certain ways, when you come up against deeper lines, there's sites in world football who don't have a number 10, for example, who still are able to be creative. You know, there are ways around that. So I think that probably is something that they will take into consideration moving forward. To add another, you want to evolve the teams, right?
Yeah.
You can't just be constantly a counter-attacking side and then just have that. You want to try and build and you want to try and get stronger. The concerning thing for me is the fact that they considered 40 goals this season.
I was just going to touch on it.
I was looking at in fact, looking across the league, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You look at the goals against columns from 3rd until 8th.
Yeah.
It's like unbelievable.
More than the number of games. More than doubles already.
We were talking about is striking a problem for the Singapore national team. What about defending, man? What has been no defending in the league this season?
But also Hougang in particular. At the start of the season, they had Mukun and Ridwan, who had some real howlers. I mean, you all watch the blooper reel on YouTube that's going around. They are the
there were
stars
a
of
few
that show.
players.
And then it got better for them, I guess. Signing is one.
Yeah.
But I think your point completely. The numbers that we are looking at.
You look at second Albrechts, they've considered 19 goals, and then suddenly a big jump to Hougang 40.
But Hougang is in a zone where they are neither here nor there. They can't chase the top 2 and they're not in the bottom. You see, for points and defense.
I mean, I have enjoyed watching Hougang this season, by the way. I think Doi has been outstanding for me. 25 goal involvement, 19 and 6. They scored 48. That's like more than half of the contribution there. I think that might be the biggest in the league. Maybe Zuzul at Balestier might be more.
I check my notes.
Yeah, maybe maybe Zuzul at Balestier might be more. But so they've got to try and sort of figure out another way of like I said, elevating that style or sort of changing that style a little bit and try to make sure that next year they can challenge a little bit more. Because at the end of the day, also I feel like it's better for our league, right? The more that we have teams really fighting, and what was encouraging was that they took 5 points from Line City Sailors this season.
And
That
for
was-
the first
that was
half, they were
encouraging.
there. They
Over there.
Yeah.
Second half, it
Yeah.
fell away
Yeah.
a little bit, as you said, Roshan.
After the break.
Yeah. So how now do they bridge the gap between the top 2 teams? Besides, I mean, because they're going to be losing Doi next season, looking at what's been going on.
By rumors.
Recruitment is important.
Consistency, I guess. Recruitment, of course.
The
but-
recruitment is important. Recruitment is, I think, is the most important thing.
No, but to be fair, honestly, Hougang has set out to play like this. I'm very involved with their recruitment, right? So Hougang has set out to play like this, and they set out to buy players like this. Yeah. So in this year, it seems like whatever they set out to achieve, how they wanted to play with diagonal balls, with underlapping fullbacks, it happened. And they wanted to play 2 up front, right? And they said, one small man, one big man, one who can hold the ball and everything. Even the choice of when Maksat came, that was how they wanted to play in the future, right? Yeah, because they knew they had Zach, right? But Maksat could be the future, and Zach couldn't do what a forward press, defending
was
on
very
the
reactive.
yes, defending on the back foot. Zach is always that. So they understood. Yes, but there has been a slight shift going to next year, right? There may be slightly more possession from the back. So there may be a Brazilian coming at the back, right? So things are changing a bit. Yeah. So I'm quite excited because really for a fact that I know for this club, when I bring a player in, they are playing how it's supposed to be, right? And I bring a player into Lion City. That's how they are playing. Yes, they want the left side of foot. Yes, they
I know where this is going.
and then you bring a player, target man number 9, then you put him in the channel. So to me, yeah, it brings satisfaction as
course.
an agent
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
I think that variation, I want to see that variation from them tactically. Being able to try and take that game up another level against, as Deepan said, against some of the smaller sides, inverted commas. No disrespect.
No disrespect to anyone. Okay, going on to second place. We have
Not nice segue.
I had to try and keep it a little bit more. But okay, for Albirex Niigata, once again, same old Albirex, solid performances all around, different players every season. But Deepan, I want to start this with you. Who stood out most for this team?
For me, it has to be Suboy, right? I think, right, if Suboy didn't get injured, I'm not sure if the guys here will agree with me. If he didn't get injured, Albirex would have wrapped up
Yes.
the title.
Agreed.
And I think the Golden Boot race and the Player of the Year race would have been a lot
Different. Yes. I think Suboy being out for them was a huge miss. Once he got injured, I think the reserve, the substitute striker came on. I think Suzuki. He got injured as well. So they ended up playing Taniguchi as sometimes their front forward.
False 9, yeah.
To me, I do feel that Albirex had a very good season actually on all accounts. From the back, defenders played well. Their midfielders played well.
Hashioka is joy to watch.
The centre backs, the left back, really, really good team. Even to me, I would say the only negativity about this team that I can have in my head is the fact that I wish we saw more of Kondo. I wish that sometimes he was given starts. Because you could see he's a terrific player, Kuraba Kondo. I think he definitely deserved more starts than he had, but I'm not quite sure whether it's because of fitness concerns or injuries. But this was definitely a really good player that they could have used more. I'm not quite sure whether they could have helped them in the games against Tampines, for example. I think came on in the second half, but I wish sometimes he had more time. I think in terms of Suboy's injury, you can't help these things, right? I think they happened. They couldn't quite deal with it. After that, they tried to deal with it with Taniguchi, but didn't quite bring them to the title. But I'm quite sure their fans and their coaching staff can be quite proud of what they have done this season to have pushed Lion City Sailors all the way to the last day of the season.
Speaking of that, last day of the season, did anybody think that they would have nicked the title at the end?
At halftime, I think a lot of people were honestly considering a helicopter. Roshan was considering a helicopter. from Jalan
I
Besar.
already 2 weeks before I was asking for the helicopter. I didn't get my helicopter. So I'm hoping next season there'll be a helicopter for us. Right in the center circle. We come down from our commentary position and get.
But we never, I don't think anyone expected 4-4. At halftime to
Credit to
full
Tanjong.
time, it was crazy. You're lucky I was doing the delayed game, so I couldn't really watch. And it was crazy to keep up with that scoreline because you don't expect Albirex of all teams to concede 4. Final day of the season, so maybe
It's
all
true.
guns blazing or something like that, right?
I didn't. First of all, I didn't even expect Lion City Sailors to be in the top spot going into the final.
I'm not sure how much the players know about the exact score lines.
Yeah.
Okay. I was listening to one of
But of course,
Hassan's interview.
fans would be shouting.
Confirm they will know, right?
Hassan said he knew because the fans were chanting
Tanjong Pagar.
Tanjong Pagar.
Yeah.
But there were times when fans were chanting Tanjong Pagar and nothing happened at Tanjong Pagar. So I was there.
I was at
But
Jerome,
having said that could have attributed to the 4-4.
Yeah.
I think there was still some fight in the Tanjong Pagar game until certain things were known. Like after Diego's game, then we saw the goals cracking in Jurong East.
I want to ask a question. Do you think Lion City Sailors won the title or Albirex lost the title?
That's a tough one to answer, man. I wouldn't know how to really answer. I guess you would say it since Lion City Sailors finished first, they won the title, lah.
Okay, but Albirex were in pole position.
No,
until-
exactly. So the Tampines game, I think that's where they lost it, and I didn't expect that. I thought the last minute equalizer that they scored against Lion City Sailors, that they put themselves in pole position. And again, when I look back at the Tampines game, they have more than enough chances to win to me. And I'm not talking about like half chances. I'm talking about proper chances in that game. It's my famous saying this whole season. High quality chances. You always see the stats.
Expected goals.
500 shots on goal, but then all of them are from the halfway line. So I think Albirex have done really well overall this season. They were one of my favorite sides to watch. So beautiful, and the transitions to attack, transition to defense, the fitness levels exquisite. The way that they go about playing the game, excellent. Tezuka in central midfield is a class act. Taniguchi was brilliant for me. And the fact that a lot of these guys are like under 23,
That's crazy, right?
They're under 23 players, and they're pushing at the top of the league. The organization, brilliant. Koga, was class up until the last game.
Oh, yeah.
But I think, any Albirex team that is being formed, we have seen over the last few years, they must be the champion. Yeah. The only reason this year is because there's Lion City in our league. And that's the reflection of our league. See, but I think for Lion City, for them to also because there's a lot of instability in Lion City this year, right? Because of the Aurelio leaving, Robin, when Robin took, also there was certain results that didn't go their way. So I felt if that didn't happen, of course Lion City would be a runaway champion. I feel, right? But Albirex, to me, it's a given they have to be the champion. So with this thing, I think even if Lion City they're struggling, I think Albirex should be the title winner. Yeah, I think they should. So them being second is actually an underachievement for me. I feel, right? Considering Lion City isn't at their maximal.
I think Kabir will be quite mad at me for doing this, but I have to add one last question to this. Ong Yu-en and the Singapore players for this Albirex team. Rosh, going to you on this one. How do you feel they did this season? Because there was some really impressive performances, and I think they really stepped up. And what would you say would be the standout of that team?
I like Ong Yu-en a lot. Since we're talking about the local guys, I think Nicky Melvin Singh also, did a pretty good job, considering that he had to be put in several different positions and then had to play as the centre forward. And let's remember, these guys are young players, playing in this system. I think it helps that there are Singaporean players in the Albirex squad, and they get exposed to a different level of training,
Culture.
conditioning, culture, and things like that. It is a culture shock to some of them, to suddenly be like, training in this heat, and training like twice a day, and the demands, the demands of training. You're trained like you're playing at a high level. But I think Ong Yu-en, hasn't let anyone down. Some of the way he plays in terms of that maturity, I think has been very good beyond his years. I hope he can continue to sort of develop, and it was good for him. I mean, he got good enough minutes, I think, this season at Albirex.
All right, fantastic. Now we move on to the champions, Lion City Sailors. On that day itself, I let my other guys go to Jalan Besar. I was at Jurong East, and you could really feel the crowd and everything else. And I think it was fantastic. And I could really, like, when my friends sent me like videos from the stadium, you could really feel everybody like really into the moment. Dipan, going to you on this one. What does this win mean for local football?
I think it means a lot in the sense where for so long we've been wanting a local club to win the Singapore Premier League title, and now you have that. I think you could see from not just the celebrations on the pitch, social media I think is quite a telling factor, where lots of people are sharing. We even had a minister talking about Lion City Sailors and branding them a proper team, whatever that means. I think it's good to see. I think it's good to see the community, not just the local football community, but the wider ones. I've had a few friends who tuned in for the last game of the season who don't normally watch the Singapore Premier League, so that's a good sign. I think it's a good sign, but we shouldn't stop here. I think we should work on this. I think other teams around the league should look at what the Sailors have achieved on and off the pitch and realize this is the standard. This is what we've got to compete with. This is what we've got to get close to. So I hope that it's a catalyst for what's coming ahead in the Singapore Premier League, because I know for a matter of fact that away from the Singapore Premier League, lots of government agencies and some people in the FAS committee are working on trying to improve the quality of the league, whether that be through privatization or something else. I think it remains to be seen, but lots of good feelings about local football at the moment. We've got the AFC Under-23 coming up. We've got the Suzuki Cup coming up. Even more good things coming up, I hope. But definitely on the subject of Lion City Sailors winning the league, really, really, really good stuff. They deserved it, I would say. Yes, I know that I talked about Suboy's injury and all, but given the fact that I think Khairul mentioned they had Robin in charge for a while, Radio left, given all these factors, they definitely do deserve to be SPL champions.
Yeah. Roshan, standouts for this Lion City Sailors team.
Standouts. I think to go through 3 coaches in a season, okay, Robin is considered interim, right? So 2 coaches is difficult. So kudos to all the players who went through that.
What's Robin's surname?
Chitrakar.
Hey, well done.
Robin, by the way, Robin, the
I
only
didn't know
one
this
of
show
the
also got
3,
trivia about
the only one of the 3 with 100% record.
I think it's difficult to go through all that as a player and still go on to win the league as they have done. So standout players for me, I think Gabriel Quek has stood out for me. I think he built on a strong season last year and then went on to push on to the next level. For me, what's exciting is I think Deepan tweeted about this, and in fact, we spoke to Gabriel about this, about the players, the Singaporean players, and this is no disrespect to the foreigners who were involved in that title push, right? But Stipe and George were essentially out for the squeaky bum time, as I like to call it. And the local players came in and gave a great account of themselves. And some of them have proved me wrong. I get frustrated with Faris Ramli sometimes. I'll be very honest, when I'm watching him, I get frustrated. But he made me eat humble pie, and I gladly will eat the humble pie because I think he really is one of those players who flourished under Kim, and it was good to watch because then you see the impact of a manager. I think Rosh will touch on this, the idea of having a manager of Kim Do-hoon's stature in the league, right? And then you see it tangibly, a player step up and flourish under a manager like that. I think it's good to watch. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, looking at me now. Oh, my turn. No, first of all, actually, what are we talking about now? What was the question? About the coach. I think having a coach of Kim Do-hoon's stature, I think
Stealing our words.
incredibly. I mean, incredible that the fact that it blows my mind that we were able to get this guy in. Really, this guy is was a manager with Ulsan. In the K League, he came close to winning the league twice, fell away, and for a while I thought that was going to happen to him here as well. Won the AFC Champions League, and then to come to Singapore, where he wins his first career league title as a coach. I mean, who would have thought that would be part of his career progression, part of his CV. So when he comes in, I think there's automatically this authority that this guy has been there, done that, and he's won. These things, won these titles and achieved.
And he shows it on the pitch as
and
well.
He shows it on the exactly.
The players are in awe
Yeah.
now what he can do.
Yeah.
Exactly. So he came in, and then of course there's always a bit of adjustment. I think culturally it's quite different from going from Vidmar going to Kim Do-hoon. And then Kim Do-hoon culturally what he expects and what the local players expect and what local players are used to. But what I like about from what I've heard is what Kim does is it's not this old school thing about people talk about fitness. It's not running on the bloody track or going box to box run without the ball. It's that tactical periodization and things like that. It's more football specific fitness. You're working on your fitness, but you're playing football at the same time, and that's important. That's game related stuff, and that's what helps. The fact that he came in and rejuvenated some of these players. Tajeli, for example, I think it was fantastic. He's a player who I think has got good quality. Starts to get minutes under Kim Do-hoon. Faris is a player I like, so I completely disagree with you there, but he frustrates you. That's fine.
Everyone can have opinions, we're still friends.
No. We're done now. No, but Faris, look, he's a player that I've always liked. I think he's so versatile. I think even for Singapore, he can play as a false nine. And for a little guy, he uses his body so well. He uses his body so well. I really like Faris. Shadan, outstanding. All season, outstanding. I think if I had a local player of the year, it would be probably him. Consistency through the year. Stipe, probably upset that he didn't win player of the year. Poor guy, but again, fantastic. But they built a really good, strong squad there overall, and the season that they've had, I enjoyed the fact that there was a Singapore team to sort of win it, but I enjoyed the fact most of all that there was a proper title race. And then I just hope that people will sort of look at this and sort of build on it, and these other clubs can try and I know it's going to be difficult unless they get funding in, but try and pick up a few things here and there, get a bit creative with how they can catch up.
Khairul, on to you. How can LCS build up from here, from this success?
I think as it is now also, when we speak to the players there, some of the players are saying that there's a lot of organisation work that is being done in training, right? And I told them also, it's good. Why? Because at the end of the day, Kim knows he's going to be here for 3 years, right? He's going to be playing Champions League this year. I think he cannot. The team cannot play like how they play with Aurelio. They can't. They got slaughtered in Champions League. You have a Champions League winner. He knows exactly how this team has to be set. Right, and even with Lion City conceding one every game, it's not a very good defensive situation, right? So I feel that with Kim alone up there, right, they will be able to be more solid for Champions League, not just for the league. I think this is the point where in the league that they may be a JDT. They may be a JDT, right? So, but in Champions League, they'll be a bit more respectable, right? And we go, maybe against the best of the best, we will lose 2 or 3. But against the other Champions League team, you can get results from there, right? And I think from now, going ahead, of course, they have improved on a lot of things, sports science department. So these are the kind of things that they want to do to create a longer career for whoever's is there.
Yeah.
We have Shadan who is already 32, right? We have certain players there. Haris is even 31, right? And he just got back from an ACL. So there are things that is being done to manage all these loads properly, right? So on that aspect. But in terms of players, of course, if we know, I think they haven't spoken to any players yet. Any confirmed players who they want to be out on loan, who wants to be extended or not. But of course, we could see, right, the profile of players that could come for this team. Right? If you have a Diego, there can be a similar profile up front, or there may be similar profile at the back, a similar Korean or a Japanese player for the Asian slot, right? So I think in that sense, with another 2 or 3 quality foreigners, it can really be a very, very good team that can compete in the Champions League.
Rosh, going on to you for this one. What are some? I mean, you commentated on Lion City Sailors games quite a bit. So, what are certain nuances or strong points that you see within this Lion City squad that makes you think that it can move forward?
Oh, definitely they're going to move forward. I think Khairul just touched on that as well. The fact that I think they're going to get players who are more suited to maybe what Kim exactly wants out of the team. They got like pretty much half the national team is playing for the Lion City Sailors. Overall quality is just absolutely incredible. There's in terms of on the pitch, in terms of consistency throughout a whole season, it's hard to see any of the other local sides kind of competing with them sort of on that front. So yeah, again, as Khairul said, as other people have said, I think we're going to come into a situation where potentially they could become like a JDT where they're just winning title after title after title. But I think the difference here is that at least we have Albirex, and there might come a point where people start supporting the Japanese side and say, we hope that... No, I mean that's a chat for further down the line. But I think, again, just to reiterate, what they are showing is the possibilities of what can happen in Singapore football if there's finances coming in. But again, not just finances, but what they do with the money. How they build the infrastructure around it.
To be fair, Kim coming in was after a long search, right? And I was part of the search. And we were speaking about Al Hilal ex-managers. We were speaking about the Portuguese.
I heard at one point Vias Boas was a name mentioned.
I contacted Vias Boas guys. But it didn't happen. Of course, Vias Boas, he doesn't get out of Europe for 20 million euro. Even there was also one of a Dutch coach who just won the UAE league. Who was from Ajax and Sporting.
Kaiser.
Kaiser, yes. So it was that level. And finally he got with Kim, and I thought, this is definitely fantastic. And Aurelio coming with a different background, and Kim coming in, and he can tidy things up with the team. And this is what I think LCS needs. And even though I didn't bring Kim, right, but I said, this is a goodbye, Badri.
I think what Khairul just spoke about actually, I think answers a lot of questions in Singapore football fans' mind, where a lot of football fans like to wonder what can LCS do in terms of the kind of talents they can attract. The fact that Vias Boas was in conversation, Kaiser was in conversation, it shows that there is essentially no limits to what they can do. I think that's what is good for Singapore football in a sense where...
There are limits though.
There are of course limits.
That's why the Romanians didn't come.
There are of course limits, but I think in terms of what we can actually bring in, it's clear to see. You look at Diego Lopez, yes, I know he hasn't really excited the league and all, but the profile that he has, I think it's something to really look at, and I do hope that maybe at least one other team follows in the direction and could get privatized and compete with the likes of Sailors and Albrechts. We are happy here saying that we were happy to have a title race between two teams. I hope next season we sit here saying, wow, that was a great 3-horse race to end the season, and that's my hope really as a Singapore football fan.
Roshan, going on to you. Weak links. There's always highs, there's always lows. What are the weak links that you can see within this Sailors squad?
You will say Faris, sir.
Hey guys, I say he won me over already lah. Faris is fine. That's frustrating to watch. Wow, weak links in this LCS team. Wow. I think for me, Song came in at the striker position and did well. in the absence of Stipe. But for me, it blows my mind that I think I had this conversation with someone in this room that you miss a team like LCS, you're missing your main striker, but you don't really have a natural striker to come in. So in terms of squad depth we talk about, I think especially with the AFC Champions League next year, that's something they need to address. Because it's okay, Song can come in and do the job in the Singapore Premier League, but you talk about not conquering the continent, but giving a good account of yourself, then you need, like I think you mentioned earlier, having 2 good players for each position. I think that's something they need in terms of stacking up their squad a bit more.
That brings up an interesting thing for me, because as this goes on, I wonder whether people start getting unhappy with game time. You know, you're going to have a squad stacked with lots of internationals, lots of players, only 11 can play and whatever is this, that and the other. And you mentioned, having a backup who's, of a good standing. He's going to have to make do with the fact that the foreign striker is number 1.
Yeah.
And it's going to become almost like a first choice goalkeeper kind of second choice goalkeeper kind of situation. You're going to have to make do with if you got a foreign number 9, he's going to play. He has to play. Your foreign signings throughout the league, local teams, no matter how bad some of the foreign signings are, for example, they will still play. First 11.
But with the return, for example, next year, if the cup competitions return, and then you got AFC Champions League, there's a lot more football to be spread out. I take your point, you want to be playing week in, week out.
Yeah.
But this year we've only had, or LCS has only had the league.
Perhaps that's a good point.
Yeah.
But when we look at the reality now, who is the number 9 that can be there?
Yeah, correct.
We don't have at all.
Yeah.
As it is, we don't have.
Yeah. Unless they're going to say, bring Iksan, but Iksan not going to come and play here now.
And that's the last thing you want as a Singapore
and then you
football
want that
fan
also. And then he's going to come here and sit on the bench. And then to Stipe or whoever the number 9 is, will be playing ahead of him. And then who else is there? Ilhan. But Ilhan has bigger dreams. He wants to go to try his luck maybe in Europe and things like that. So how many
So it's really
coming through?
Yeah.
It goes back.
Khairul Nadim, would he not? I mean, okay, he's got national service or whatever to clear because of his age.
But I don't think it's better than Amiruddin.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
so that's a good point. Right? So I think they had Amiruddin, Ashraf, who I know he was struggling with injuries, but was recovered and he was sitting on the bench a few times. He could have probably got a chance, but didn't get a chance as well. Any insights on that?
And it's also because of the changes in coaches. You see, when you have Aurelio liked him. Aurelio wanted to give him time, but it was still too early during that time. Robin came. I think Robin wanted to play it very safe.
Yeah.
And then Kim also, there's a lot at stake with
Of course.
right?
Yeah,
so I think there was never a time where they could put him in for
That's Amiruddin is another one, because he's a really good talented player, and he's another one that I question about whether how much game time is he going to see going forward, and should he actually think about? I know it's difficult to leave a project like City.
It's my worry. It's my worry for me.
I can
also.
imagine salary wise, but at some point, do you start thinking? Maybe I take a cut and play somewhere. I mean, I don't know. It's something to look.
I mean, I represent Amiruddin, right? So on my side, I'm thinking now, he is in a platform where he's training with the best now. The injury issues, he has recovered very well because there's no other rehab place in Singapore. But now, what's next for him? And but for him to go out, then I can understand Lion City's point of view. He is able now to come in and play when he needs now. I cannot leave him. Who's next for me? Right? So there's two situations now where I'm trying to think for both. Right? But at the same time, for the player, he needs game time. So we need to speak and say, no, Kim, you have to give him some game time. No? Even though there's gonna be 20 million striker coming in next year.
I think honestly this discussion can go on forever, but unfortunately we have to kind of end it here. But last question to the panel here. The fans wise, I mean, it is so refreshing to see fans back into the stadium, especially for the last few weeks. As the COVID situation hopefully dies down, do you think we'll be able to see this kind of crowd hopefully next season? Deepan, I want to start with you on this one.
I do think we'll get a good crowd next season. Before I touch on football, the Singapore Premier League competition, I just want to also say, yes, of course, the final whistle exists, but the likes of Roshan and Roshan, what they're doing as well with their podcast. I have to also mention Shasi, what he does with his podcast, and all of these smaller fan groups as well. I think they have all played a tremendous role in actually stirring interest in Singapore football at the moment. As you know, there is a Final Whistle Telegram group that talks about Singapore football. It doesn't sleep 4 a.m. 4 a.m., 5 a.m. you still have conversations there, and I think that's a sign of where we are headed. I think if this was maybe, I don't know, 3 years ago, would there be like lively conversations about Singapore football in a Telegram group at 3 a.m. in the morning? I don't think so.
Depends what group.
The kind of groups that you are involved in.
like I said earlier, I think this season has been the most interesting in years, right? But the uptrend has started in 2019 for the league. That has started, even though the quality hasn't been as good. Even when I said 10-15 years, the quality was still good, but it was on a downtrend. So people were losing the interest in football, diluted by the Lions 12 and everything. But it slowly was dying. But the uptrend, even though the quality of football is not very high, when 2 years ago, still we had under 21 foreigner, we had under 23 players. The quality is not as high as today, right? But I foresee that because of this interest, not just Lion City, it will slowly, gradually go up. All the groups, I'm seeing so many now. It's just on Instagram and all these social media platforms. And I'm very thankful that it's happening because I was working in the culture in Indonesia for 2 years plus 3 years, and you get this all the time. Right, all these individual Instagram groups, but of course they can be very, very vicious at
Toxic,
times.
It can get toxic.
But at times it's okay. It's football, right? And we have to grow and develop this part of the game also.
And one thing I hope that people don't do, and I see a lot of this in Singapore, not just football, but a lot of different cultures as well in Singapore. A lot of gatekeeping happens where, this guy just started supporting LCS. So he wasn't like me. I
Glory
supported
Hunter
5
gets
years, 6 years.
thrown around a lot.
I mean, you've got to look at it from a positive point of view. At
Nobody
least,
has a monopoly on this.
there's a new fan base coming in. And you look at the demographics of these LCS fans. To me, it's quite new because I don't see this demographic usually. Suddenly, there's a new boom of fans. I think it's tremendous. It shows you what LCS is doing off the pitch is working, not just on the pitch. Because I don't think these fans are coming in to just watch the players. It's a lot of branding and marketing that's taken place off the pitch. And credit to, honestly, Shamir, Ken Tan for that. Because Ken, I think he writes a lot of the content on LCS sites and all. These are the unsung heroes, I would say, of the title win, I would say.
Yeah, it's nice to see we got younger fans coming through as well, you know, and fans who are not constantly going on about Malaysia Cup.
No, we can do away with them. We can do away. Can get lost.
The new generation.
I think that's the most positive thing because there's new fans coming in. You are confidently saying we can do away.
Get lost,
people,
get away.
You know, you talk about bring back. Listen, no disrespect to the people who were legends who used to play the Malaysia Cup, but it was Malaysia's state league, no. People talk like as if it's Premier League or whatever. And I get the passion around it. And then there was all these kinds of things about match fixing back then and those issues and things like that. But yes, we used to go to the stadium. I also was old enough to go.
We enjoyed the
Atmosphere
experience.
was fantastic, brilliant. But time to move on. And you talk about bring back the Kallang Roar. We are the Kallang Roar. You show up in the ground and you cheer. You know, we are like sort of expecting the players to draw us in. And yes, there's an element of that needs to happen. But I think we all are stakeholders in the league. We all have our, I know this sounds a little bit preachy, but we all have our parts to play. Of course. We all have our parts to play to make it sort of really grow together. So I'm quite positive about what's going to happen. And I would like to see some of these other clubs take their things like their website a bit more seriously, their marketing a bit more seriously, and really try and reach out to this younger generation of fans. Sort of coming
And I
through,
don't know how linked it is, but the fact that a club like Balestier have finally decided to refresh things from the coaching point of view, it's also quite telling. I'm quite sure this is causing impacts all around.
And the best thing I feel now, there's no free nasi lemak anymore.
Hey.
That was the problem.
No gimmicks, no gimmicks.
Popcorns or nasi lemak or uniform groups or school buses coming in. There's no more. It's really genuine
Legit
fans queuing for tickets, paying for tickets, $10 a piece.
That's amazing.
I hope the restrictions are able to be eased up so that we can see more.
For the longest time, it was $6. 20 years it was. Now it's $10. People are buying.
People are still coming, I mean, just precedent to the last couple games of the season, especially at Jalan Besar Stadium, tickets running out at
2 p.m., 3 p.m.
3 p.m. The queues,
It's absolutely amazing.
I think it's really whet my appetite for the AFF Suzuki Cup that's coming up. This whole season, it's nice to look forward to that almost. And
As
of course,
an
feel the lull.
end for the year.
Exactly. And I mean, it could go either way. But either way, I'm excited. And I think the cherry on the cake is it's going to be in Singapore. So hopefully the fans that are in Jalan Besar will translate themselves to the National Stadium and hopefully more than 1,000. And we'll have a good atmosphere and have a good account of ourselves.
I think 10,000 possible, easily will fill
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
Easily will fill up.
And on that note, that is it for our SPL yearly review show. We'll be opening our voting very shortly for the TFW Awards really soon, so do keep a lookout for that. And please do make sure to like, comment, and of course subscribe to the YouTube channel and all the various social media channels. And with that, thank you for watching, and thank you, of course, to all our guests here.
Thank you, Jerome.
Please,
Thank you so much.
we'll have all their socials and everything linked up. Thank you, and good night.